year they have a session in the UN up there. You know, people go up and the presidents speak and what have you. And so it's usually a good time to get a picture of where everybody or some of the world is at. I guess last year or year before last, everybody was laughing at old Don. He got up there and started talking, and they just started laughing, which is good for him. I got a couple of these. This might be hard to see, and then don't know that's. So again, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Today we're going to cover a lot of things. One is a transgenerational experience that we've had here in America. The other day you hear about, well, first of all, they in a real little shake-up right now about the white lady that died the other day. And of course we're not, well hopefully we're not, but they are. Because the trajectory that the government is on is clear to see that it don't make any road they take is all downhill. You know, and all the signs are there. Dangerous curves, slow down, like on the highway, the truck is getting ready to tip over the sign if you're going over 20 miles an hour. And all those signs are there. And if they take this road, they're going to go right off a cliff. If they take the other road, it don't make no difference. They're going to just meander downhill. That's the way it's going, and there's no. If you want to skip a little, you're looking at those pages that I gave you. Okay, I'll start with those instead of because the title today is evolution, and. One of them talks about, at the top, it talks about, I have a date on there in red, it's 10/10/03. That's about 17 years ago. And the top it says, why policy, kindness, compassion, help them. In fact, it says help them move from former informers, saboteurs, and to liberators. Right at the bottom, I have South Africa. It has necklace. So that, those tires they used to put on the people in South Africa and set them on fire. Yeah, the snitches and the people like that, they'd put a tire on them and light them on fire. They call them necklaces. And then these are notes, and we'll get to the subject of evolution because we're talking about evolution. So these are notes that talk about one down here says it's about instinct, no killer instinct, but it's not a weakness. It's a strength. So that has to that's evidently reminding yourself about something. I don't know if you have this page right here. Okay, now, this says must challenge in own time, and it says challenge the court. Example, P.S. U.S. government, local government owes masjid and self 10 years of back pay for violation of personal rights, rights of privacy, violating rights of, so review demand, and then this clearing air of coalition of munafiqs. We had a program in '86 called Masjid al-Islam Clears the Air. I don't know if you ever saw that one. But that talked about all the general groups and organizations that we were involved with at that time. So we had to clear the air. So here we're talking about clearing the air of a coalition of munafiqs. And we have everybody down in nationalist, socialist, Muslim informer cliques. One of our special groups in Oakland was when the Black Panther Party was destroyed, another group moved into Oakland. We had a lot of activity with them. In fact, they were right up the street. We're not going to call their name, but they were what we call, just infiltrators, saboteurs. Well, they weren't infiltrating everybody. They had a group, and they didn't leave Oakland until when Huey Newton was killed back in '89 or '90, something like that. Bam, they was gone. The place is still there, but it's not abandoned, but they gone. They gone. They back down in Dixie. They were there. They had the same rhetoric and all that as the Black Panther Party. That type of, you would mistake them for the Black Panther Party, almost. And they had a socialist agenda, but they had their socialism was on a higher level than the Black Panther Party. They had perfected it, And to everybody else, they had different ideas about them, but the day I looked at them, I knew they was probably the police. Not probably, Anyway, so that's why we have nationalists, socialists, and the Muslim informer clique. And this is a partial list, and I have certain names as number 1, 1980 to 1983. You can see the name there. Then it has, like right before it, other names of certain people, 1980 to 1984. Then I have Babbling Jones, 1982 to 1988. Now, and I have No Evolution right next to it. That's because, well, whoever Babbling Jones is, Babbling, he's a talker, rapper, and Jones could be Smith or Wright or Edwards or whatever goes with that. So it's pretty easy to put it together, who Babbling Jones is. Babbling Jones, I have here No Evolution because, now remember, this is our life that we're dealing with, and we know that this is our life, so it's not a joke. So we study all these are notes of the time, and actually you can review the notes, the people, and everything is consistent with these notes whenever they were written, because we was encountering so much from the very beginning that we know we had to keep a record of what's going on, because we said we're dealing with a protracted struggle. That means a long-range struggle. And over that period, there's patterns going to develop. And the patterns will solve everything, because that pattern keeps coming back over and over again. And that pattern, see, especially in those days, if you mainly feel like you're by yourself, you're going to have proof. You don't have to have proof, because when you're getting out there, you got to act off what you know, whether the people understand it or not. You have to act off what you know. But just for educational purposes, you want to have a record that the pattern is, well, we didn't know whether it would go this long or not, but the pattern is repetitive. So let's see what we're talking about here. We met Babylon Jones, say, in 82. In 88, he was at a meeting, right? We always talk about that 88 meeting at ISNA headquarters, when all the Negroes turned around. Now, out of all the Negroes there, Babylon Jones was technically a good friend he was a good friend, but he was still Babylon Jones until maybe 2000 or something. That's when you know something happens, that you know that he is suffering from evolution, not where I knew from Jump Street. He wasn't suffering from sabotage, informer, and all of that. You know what I mean? He wasn't that. That's clear all along. But he was not evolving. And even on the subject of Baya, other people would just, you could see that people just tossed their Baya around and they wasn't serious about it. That's why I never even worried about it. We did it in our movement, but I didn't, that's just what they wanted to do in Oakland, and they kept pressing the issue. I said, okay, but you ain't never seen me put it in my pocket and just say, I'm dealing, or even tell people, you have Baya. You ain't never heard that from me. I ain't never even mentioned it because I thought about it as a type of hypocrisy because of the people involved. That's why I never gave my Baya, because in studying the people and you're trying to convince them, let's say the people you're dealing with has, let's call it a leadership complex. Just a leadership complex, and they may see themselves as just, a leader, and they don't see nobody else with those qualities, and it's an improper analysis of the period we're living in. We done already went through COINTEL program, up and down and all that, and it's clear that for a movement to exist on the level we're talking about, it needs many big, we used to call them big niggas. We need a whole house full of big niggas. I used to use the word, we need 100 big niggas. We don't need one. Okay, I'm coming out of the time when I'm the biggest one in our area. So I know what I'm talking about. And I had a feeling that the other people know that I'm talking to should understand that. It's simple. But for instance, if you could just come out of the pen and you're traveling around, you can see the lecture circuit was this day, the next day, all over the country. And for me, that was good. It was good. But other people didn't like that because for some reason. And I would go into areas like what would be considered their territory, and they might have a group of Negroes down there. Let's say New Orleans. They got a group of Negroes that are maybe attached. And Allah knows best what the Negroes would be telling. Evidently, other people were calling, babbling and telling Babylon, well, da. And so I actually was told, don't do this and don't do that. I say, hey, man, I'm just out of the penitentiary, and this is a beautiful thing. I can go all over the country on a paid lecture, sir. Not paid like getting money. Although you'd pick up, they'd give you at least gas money. I could get gas money. I mean, I couldn't retire on it. Because you go somewhere, nice to see you. Here's $50 or $100 or something. Well, how much was your gas? Because half the time. So it wasn't like, but you got the opportunity to go all over the United States, over and over again. And when you especially when you're driving, you would go to maybe the brothers that invited you to their house, but you would go hang out at the masjid. Can you imagine that you go to all the mosques and you hanging out in every mosque in those days around the country? So you picking up on the flow. And this is necessary when it's absolutely necessary, or it's good when you're not new at this, but you didn't just open your masjid and what have you. And this is great. This is great. Okay, but in those days, other people might think, well, if you get around, you're going to get more popular than me. That type of dumb stuff. And you can see what it is. No, it's ridiculous. So you might say, I'm not going to form an allegiance. Anything come up, like when anything came up with us, if somebody was in trouble, no matter who it was, Sami al-Ariyan, Mazen al-Najjar, his brother-in-law, anybody, we jumped on it right away to help him, But we were not going to give our word for anything that we wasn't certain about, because we looked at giving our word or our bayah is different than other people. Because we believe that, hey, if you give your allegiance, that means you down. It's not allegiance of the weather's good today, so my allegiance is good. Oh, I don't like the weather today, so my allegiance is 50% today. Oh, this is bad weather here, it's down to 10%. We wouldn't do that, and we couldn't do that. Okay, so the reason we have in red letters no evolution is because the people that were placed by history in a position. In fact, in those days, it was two people placed in a position to lead the ummah. No, to lead black people. One was a chief, okay, and the other was Babylon. Okay, so, and we liked them both. I mean, we was really technically close to them, But when you're putting your life into something, hold it. This is life here, man. I'm sorry. I'm with you. And you can see when anything happened to anybody, we might have went way out in front of all the people that was back there talking about this is where we're coming from, this is what we're about. And they have allegiance, but we didn't give it. But we was on the front row, and the leadership themselves commented on it specifically. That you didn't come down here or over here or wherever asking what you need. You just got busy. In fact, it don't take much to figure out what somebody needs. Just what are their situation. Anyway, one of the things that was a little bit unnerving was in 1988 at this Negro meeting that made you feel a little uncomfortable was 88 is the year Iran Air was shot down over the Persian Gulf by the Vincennes. 290 people was killed, men, women, and children. And when that happened, we had several programs in the United States about that in different cities, and they was having one down in Dixie. And so the Iranians asked if certain people could participate. So I called them and they said no, da 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 da. And you know, if you can't do nothing, no, you know, that type of thing. So I called another person that was down there in Dixie with them. They called them and they got the same reply. But when we was at the Negro program, just a few months later, Babylon says, just think, Iran Air. No, our silence is deafening. A civilian airliner is shot down and we don't say nothing. It was cold-blooded here. I mean, we didn't ask the guy, and we're sitting right there. I said, man, this is deep. So you could see I'm mentioning certain things so people will understand the whole scope, or not the whole scope, because it's, you see, I could have a paper every week. It's a zillion things, and it would be, I would become Babylon Jones myself trying to get it all out. You know what I mean? So that won't work. But I just have these here to show there was no evolution. That's the reason the talk today is about evolution of Islamic movement, and our personal evolution and movement evolution. That as we move ahead, now those people might have evolved, but it took a traumatic event, and then they say, oh, I see now. You know, sometimes you just get, bam, you get shook up and you see, oh, that's what it was. Oh, that's who they are. That's who they are. That's who he is. That's who Bob, and it's clear after a while. So, there's other names on here I'm not going to mention. You could see the names. It has 1981, 88. There's False Shia in 1982. So as you're traveling around the country, and you're traveling and you're lecturing based on the acquisition of historical patterns of behavior. You know, you didn't survive. It's like being in two wars. You didn't survive two wars, right? You know, one after another. So you know a little bit about the battlefield by then. Texas Tom, well, that's a long story. Osama Denver. Remember we talked about how deep it was in Denver. The Tom, of course. Then East Coast Negro Old Time Sunni Association. I know that's a long title. But remember at that time I was on the West Coast, so I'm over here doing this research. And so this is our idea of what we're running across. It's the East Coast Negro Old Time Sunni Association, whatever that means. No, that's what was going on. Okay, but now back to, so you can see why things like let me pull another one out. It'll make it even clearer. This is from the same era. This is the 88. I don't know if you have this one right here. This one right here? It has some, okay. At the bottom, you look at this and it has a missing sword of Islam. I don't know if anybody remember the sword of Islam. It was a video about this. It was when it came out in '86, so I'm sure. This is when Hezbollah and all of them is developing in Lebanon, and they called it, the white folks did, it's called the Sword of Islam. It was real nice. But at the bottom, we see right here, possible time to pop cap in the head of 1 to 5 munafiqs. And as a criteria, must be public, where everybody know. They can't prove you did it, but everybody know you, because you want an example. This is 1988. So it must be public. And number 2, done with audacity, audacious. But 3, at our own time and place. Now you can see when we're talking about evolution. When you come over here to 2003, when you come over here, you can see the progression, the evolution. Now this is the thing that makes the movement what it is, that wherever you start, you evolve. You have to, we talk about it all the time. Equine evolving at 40 miles an hour, the movement is traveling, right, at 100 miles an hour. They're evolving, but behind the curve. Okay, now, this is going to get up to right now because we're in an emergency type situation. Well, it's not an emergency. It's not an emergency for us because this evolution that's been going on of our movement. Remember, other people, no matter how they look at it, we're cruising along. We're not under any stress at all. And the devolving of the United States government and its allies, they heading down fast. Right, if we just stay where we are, we just stick our feet up on the couch and turn on the TV and keep moving, praying, fasting, giving a couple of talks every now and then, doing a little here and there, they're going to be down. History show, the history of states, the history of government, the history of, that's why the Qurans are traveling the earth. Every historical disease of the decline of a society that they had in history, they have the pharaonic disease, they have all of the historical diseases that every system, right, that every dictatorship, every kingship have had. They got them all. They got every one of them. So if you got cancer, okay, you might pull through. You might have, they get a little miracle cure, you know what I mean? A little chemotherapy, hair fall out for a while, you might make a comeback. But if you got liver problems, diabetes, respiratory, pulmonary problems, if one of your systems is kind of messing up, you might pull through a little bit. But if you got heart trouble, brain trouble, back trouble, every kind of trouble that you can name, you're almost ready to say, boss man may not make this, right? Because he didn't have societal diseases before. He's come here with, he did everything, slavery, all of that stuff.
Not only that, you're almost ready to take your own life because you can't overcome all those diseases. So you already talked about suicide.
It is. Yeah. It is. No, it is. It's a suicide. So this thing about the lady dying, oh yeah, we gonna get us. That's wonderful. Do a full-fledged dictatorship. Yeah, you want to be bad? Let's get it all out. You know what I mean? It won't work. The people are not where they was. You could just see Black Lives Matter with the brainwash mixed in. America is not there. It's too many people that know that slavery, it did exist. And Don want to start the 1776 Association. This is insanity. What are you going to teach? He want to teach. I mean, all the white folks know that they did wrong, and they all saying, well, we don't want to repent, but we just show that wasn't nice. And it's a carryover. Half of the white folks is almost at the door of reparations, but you know what I mean? It's numbers of them that's almost, and here him and his crew come. See, he don't have the army. That's why we studied them in detail. You don't have the army with him. You know what I mean? You don't have the army with him because Colin Powell and then the generals, shoot. How you gonna have a general with him when he talk about all of them? The FBI ain't with him. Nobody, the only ones with him is the Zionists. Is Netanyahu and a few hangers-on. This is impossible. And he's breaking all the laws of a presidency. They're supposed, everybody's saying, please vote. Please vote. Everything, they got a movie on voting, right? The trailer says they discovered that they got a plan to stop the nigger. So that means, of course, as Hollywood is sitting right there, everything is set to make everybody to vote. Huh?
Democracy is about voting.
Democracy is about voting. And then they scan everybody. And then Don, suppose a president said, I don't trust the election. Now, they stole the election 3 or 4 times, but ain't nobody said, after a while, what's the name? Just say, what's his name? The environmentalist vice president, what his name was? Gore. He said, okay, forget it. You can steal it, all this dude running around. But he can't come up and say, hey, man, I ain't going for none of this, right? I ain't going for this. But Don's saying it right ahead, and it's good. That's why I say any exit they take, they going off the cliff. They either going to go crashing down in a hurry, or they going to roll down the hill, you know what I mean, with no brakes. Whatever it is, they gone. They can't take, there's no exit for them to take. At this time, except repentance, big time, and they ain't going to do that. I don't see it in the cards. Maybe they will. That'd be wonderful. But since nobody else did it in history, who did it? Nineveh. Nineveh, they repented, bless their heart. And nobody else. Nobody else did it. So they can't. Anyway, let me go on. And so we have on this page mouth-to-mouth breathing, Malcolm. You know what I mean. And it has no natural killer instinct. Not a weakness, but a strength. Now, that's me putting down stuff that I know that I don't have, and it's good, because we did our whole. Can you imagine running the whole gangster thing in Northern California and got the biggest, strongest organization? And of course, nobody never messed with us because we too big, too strong. But we never even beat nobody up. Can you imagine? You think about it. There's a little thing on here. It says, you go about 5 days, it says algae, bathtub. Algae was about number 6 in our organization. And he did something. He was doing something nickel slick. So it says bathtub. So I said, we went over one of our houses, put him in that bathtub. I said, fill it up with water. They just don't turn on the water. But I had number one and number two was manhandling. It wasn't the way he looked at me, this is the way he looked at them. I said, tear that white off. Take that nigga over so-and-so. They took him over so-and-so, and they let him go. He went back to Louisiana. They probably gave him a pocket full of money. In other words, he was looking at them. Whatever he did, it was number 6 down the line. This is number 1 and 2. They did exactly the same thing. Of course, more because they right up at the top, right? So this is just something that's natural. I'm gonna get rid of everybody. I didn't do that because that's not my nature. Plus, it's only money anyway, right? Plus, I already wrote down how much money I wanted for what I was doing, right? So when I gave it to them, they supposed to do it on a certain level, so maybe not maybe. I mean, I would be a psychopath to put certain types of rules on people in a certain game that you know they can't keep, right? It would be insanity. Now, of course, everything was good, but I already wrote down what I wanted back. Now, we had a good quality control. They had to keep it at a certain level. As long as they kept it at that level, they could steal whatever they wanted. Because I already got down, this is what I want back, right? When I get what I want back, the customers are happy. They stealing whatever they want. Not stealing, it's like that's why people kill each other all the time in that game. You broke the rule. Just imagining, you getting so much money you don't know what to do, and you're gonna kill everybody for breaking rule number 0.57 or something like that. It's insanity. So, we told him, take him over so-and-so. They took him over there. Then they called me and said, man, so-and-so got away. I didn't say, how much money did y'all give him to go back to Louisiana where he's from? But it's clear that's what happened, right? That's what I wanted him to do. There's no sense. Hey, in other words, we got lucky, man. At least I got lucky because I never did nothing. I never hurt nobody. Right? And that's hey man, that's big. But see, when these people get to acting funny over here, it's I pop a cap in these niggas, bust them up, real quick and do it publicly. But then over here, several years later, you done evolved. You see what I mean? Because this is something that's being contemplated, And I'm not ashamed of it, and I ain't scared of nobody because I wouldn't write it down, and they done already stole all of my notes and everything. So I know that they're gonna read them and do all of that. So that means I gotta do this, and it's in front of everybody, and I get away with it. That means I have to be connected where I'm at. And suppose we were still connected now. They might think they know, they don't know everything. This is what boss man got holes all in him. He's leaking like a sieve. And he's always blind spots, they just have them. It's just that when boss man teach people stuff, they learn it like he's the professor, like learning martial arts. He's a great da-da-da-da. And boss man ain't like that. Boss man wasn't like that then. He did think ahead. he did put people way out in front, and he did all of those things. He still do them now. But it's different now. When it's, the Quran talks about, even on this, they had, all the people had plans, right? The Romans didn't just pop up and said, that's it, we headed down, that's it. No, they had a plan. They got all their people together over and over again. We got to keep this thing together, we got to do this, and they kept heading down. Only thing in those days, it took almost 1,000 years from the crumble, but they still went down. Every other society. Okay, so we done established a little bit about where we're going with all of this today. Where we're actually going today is the subject of evolution. Another thing, after you make some talks, this don't pertain to anything in particular, but people might say, I don't believe what you say about such and such and such and that. Hey man, some might say, that's really good the way you put that, man. That's deep, you know. May Allah bless you. They might say this. But just remember, don't have nothing to do with what we're talking about, but for instance, there's hadith that say, it's not about lying, but you can actually, I know 2 cases, man between his wife, you know, if you're talking, you can tell the husband may be just 80% bad. You know, you could say he's not all bad, he's only 50-50, you know what I mean? And to keep them together, because for them to get divorced and all that with the kids and all that, it's worse, right? So you can shine it up a little bit, polish it up a little bit, and hope for the best. To make peace between peoples, you can definitely do that. So if a person is trying to make peace between the people, they can embellish things. That's a sign of evolution. It's a sign of evolution, because generally, just like the other one, I'm going to pop the cap in them niggas, right? That pops into your mind from time to time. You know, if people are constantly, you got to imagine now, if people are constantly cutting your throat, the only reason that they're not killing you is because God is protecting you. Otherwise, you would just be dead or crazy. When the numbers, you got to mention, imagine the numbers. The numbers, good God Almighty. And who's not involved? Dog, man. Well, I don't care whether it's up, whether it's down, whether it's over, whether it's right, the numbers. So evolution brings out this thing about kindness and what have you. And even, it's not only with certain type of people, even with relatives and things. See, when, probably when I get what I get from the government, I think it should be nice. And it was an ayat that was revealed. So if your family members are all loving and kind and they disagree with the relatives of Abu Bakr was shady about, not shady, but when Aisha radiallahu anha had that little incident, they wasn't, so Abu Bakr said, I ain't gonna bump y'all, man. I'm not gonna hook y'all up no more. And he was rich, of course. Then the ayat was revealed, and No. See, there's ayats about different people in the Quran. You don't call them by name. But this specifically, and the people that understand that, this is ayat, and let not those of you who possess grace and abundance swear against giving to the near of kin, the Haribun, the people who are close, the near of kin. Remember, we say that all the time, the next of kin, near of kin, and the poor, and those who have migrated in the way of Allah, and they should pardon and turn away. Do you not like that Allah should forgive you? So this is what Allah is actually, this is addressing the Ummah, but it's in a direct address to Abu Bakr. Hey, no, oh, there's so many ayats. There's you got to make a study. Hey, so Allah say, hey man, He said, I'm cutting them jokers off, man. Them niggas ain't getting nothing from me. That's it. Forget it. That's it. And so Allah just say those people that have abundance and everything, and you got all this grace, you know what I mean, that you should not abstain from sharing well, because they're kind of like dependents. They dropping by every now and then, every time bills come up. Oh, sitting around in the living room. Or, can I help y'all? You know, that type of thing. You know how our relatives do. So they're semi-dependents. You know what I mean? They dropping by every time they need something. And he's a good man. He's a wealthy man, you know. And so Allah tells him, and let not those of you who possess grace and abundance swear against giving to near of kin and the poor. Okay, now let's add that into what's happening with us. The people, I know how my family did me all the time. And if the government make them do something, I can't be mad at them. The government made them do it. They're human beings. Who the hell can stand up against? You find the people that can stand up against boss man for years and years. The first time they drop by, second time they drop by. Then each time they come back, they done studied something and more. And some may have a father or something in an old folks home or health, you know what I mean, all of that. Like Iranians, they just study them. They say, they go to them and say, hey, your mother has such and such a type of cancer back in Iran. We could bring over here and hook her up, you know. Just imagine if you do that with 100 guys, how many of them are going to come around? Maybe 10, 15, 20, maybe 80, you know, because it's mom. Okay, so you don't know what boss man, but boss man, you know one thing, he is studying and doing deep research. And he's got every social security number, every psychological visit to a hospital, or every dope dealer that done sold somebody, you know what I mean? He got all of that. So you give him time, he's gonna get, and that's why, you know, I told one of my relatives, I said, man, I said, as soon as payday come, I'm gonna give you $100,000. Nah, it goes fluctuate. If you don't get but a couple of million, ain't nobody. But if you get $100 million, you know, happy days is here again. You know, so I was telling Now this guy runs across, he's kingfish. Well, I shouldn't say kingfish because nobody knows what I'm talking about. But look, kingfish always would run across money. He'd get houses, apartments, and all of that, and he would blow this thing. So I said, man, I'm gonna get you $100,000, and the rule is, you can't save none of it. You got to blow it. You just got to blow it. Just blow it. Just blow it. No, like you win the lottery and all, pretty soon you broke. Do that. Just do that. You got that coming. And at your age, you made that, in fact, we gotta hurry up and deal with boss man, because my relatives are old as me or older. Some, the young ones is retirement age, Yeah, so we gotta, and the kids is 50. Man, in a few days, my oldest son will be 55 years old. And I tell him, I said, man, y'all as old as me. I can't tell you nothing. I don't need to. When I was in my 50s, I had the game down. I don't need to tell you nothing at 50 years old. You 50 years old and I haven't figured it out yet. Hey, man, ain't nothing. It might be, I ain't saying it's too late, but anyway, and let not those of you who possess grace and abundance swear against giving to the near of kin and the poor. So the idea today is talk about evolution and to show that there's a process of evolution. And not only that, but evolution in ideas. So if we, whatever they call it, visioneering or picturing the world you want to live in, the type of world you want to be a part of, and then working toward building that type of world. That's really, and that's where we are right here. That's where we are right here. That's why all the stuff we're doing right now is arranging, rearranging, and that's what that's why if you hear things that sound a little strange, it ain't nothing else, because look, the human being sometimes is trapped by his environment. In fact, his environment, we come with a clean slate, right? And then we're social beings. So imagine our environment determines 98% of what we are. And I mean, in other words, the food you eat, basically your habits, your ideas are formed by the stuff you read, the movies you go to, all of that, and what people tell you every day. If you're white, you're all right. If you're yellow, you're mellow. If you're brown, stick around. If you're black, you get back. And if you're born and raised in that, you like chitlins, you know what I mean? Fried grease dripping out of everything, right? And it causes high blood pressure. And the old pork, they don't do it now, but the old pork used to be salt pork. I don't know, maybe y'all don't remember that. Salt pork, not only pork, but salt pork, of course, to preserve it. But can you imagine the blood pressure? Good God Almighty. So one day anybody made it past 35. Salt pork, to hold water on you, and high blood pressure, and trachina worms and all. Good God Almighty. We're lucky we are still here. They talk about the resilience of the Negro. I say the Negro is lucky to be here. Nobody else could have. They did two things to certain Hebrews, and they almost disappeared. And the Negro, man, hey, I'm not talking nationalist talk, but the Negro is resilient without even knowing it. He just walking around, bumping into everything, and everybody shooting at him and throwing hand grenades at him, and he's, and just, right? Hey, man, the white folks is trying to understand, did that really happen to you? And they talk about, old Don was saying on the news the other day, he told this guy Woodard, because Woodard mentioned something about white privilege. And, yeah. So he said, yeah, well, you know, we are at a high white privilege. He said, you believe that stuff? He said, you really drank the Kool-Aid, didn't you? You really, right? They don't say that much on the news. They don't, they said it once or twice. But Bob Woodard has said, no, white privilege, can you imagine somebody white not even knowing that that it's a privilege, it's been a privilege, it's less than it was before. It's not leveled off, but it's getting to where it's still a privilege to be white in America. You're not going to get shot by the police most of the time if you're white. And you're going to pay less taxes and all kinds, man, it's, and, huh? He said way more than that. Oh yeah, he said way more than that, but what I'm saying, yeah. Yes, that book came out, that's right, that book, Rage is the name of it, I think. But the point is that that's the point of the book. He wrote one before called Fear, you know. But the thing is, and Woodard, he's been at this for 50 years. He's the one on the Nixon tapes and all that. Yeah, he's on the old Tricky Dick. But you know, compared to the scoundrels of those days, Nixon and all of them, Nixon is a child's play compared to, you know, Nixon stayed within the framework, you know what I mean? Yeah, a little bit. Now Don is gone. That's why it ain't no help for him, because Don is in the driver's seat, and he don't miss. He like, for him it's like bumper cars, except they real, you know, cars and airplanes. He's crashing real cars into. That's what he do. But now for us, this is a wonderful opportunity, because a lot of people are really afraid, they're sad about it. No, indeed. This is a great opportunity for us, man. This is an opportunity for us to contribute. And I don't want to sound mushy and Mandelaism and all of that stuff, and Martin Luther Kingism and all of that. But you know, everybody was moving in this direction. Even Malcolm X, as he matured and got older, he didn't have a whole lot of time. We've had 50 years to evolve to where we are now. And we are at a state that I feel that we're able to combat these transgenerational experiences and oppression. Transgeneration, that means from generation to generation. That means this stuff is ingrained. It's ingrained. It's not, and you have to make a special detailed effort above other human beings, you know. Because Koreans, when they come here, they have faults and they have problems, but they have already ingrained in them, first of all, they're immigrant. And an immigrant, when he moved to another state or place, he ain't got nobody to help him. So an immigrant, you got to look at how they all do. I don't care whether they're immigrants. The Sudanese got a place up here, right? And they got another place right around the corner, 7-Eleven. And I think they're popping up with another 7-Eleven. Why? In Africa, the Somalis are said to be poor here, but the Somalis along the eastern seaboard of the Indian Ocean In East Africa, they big businessmen. Over here, see, I always knew the Somalis from the old days. I knew them, and they were in Tanzania. I don't know if they like that now, because they're kicking a lot of them out. But in South Africa, the Somalis go there the last few years. They own stores. When you own stores and shops, you begin to build up money. You have to gain some management and what have you. And every group of people that go into trade like that, right? If they survive, they begin to accumulate wealth. That's why the Yahudi, everywhere he went, in fact, Yahudi told my mother, never work for anybody else. Never work for anybody else. Because she worked for a Jew, and the Jew telling her, don't ever work for nobody. Maybe for a week or two to get yourself something to eat, but you get yourself some cloth or something, and you sell it. Then you get 2 pieces of cloth, you sell it. And that's business. Okay, you will acquire something. If you work on a job, they're going to change, that stuff is going to change, and you have money today, you don't have it tomorrow. But if you're in business, you're going to reach into the merchant class. So project management, we talked about project management yesterday. 4481, the bookstore, the other stuff, and we'll get into it, but that's the, it's just regular job description that we have a plan now, and we're going to institute our plan. Actually, for 4481, technically, we get it together soon, of course. This idea about forgiveness and overlooking people's faults. There's a person that gave a call or sent a message about, well, I'm sad I didn't do such and such a time, but I'm ready now to pack up and go da-da-da-da. Well, if they do, instead of going out there, they can go right there next door, because we're going to need writers and everything. Come. But they have to make the appointment. I'm not going to make an appointment. I done said there's right there. You can bring your whole crew. That is. But you got to have a certain mindset. You can't be calling people and changing your mind and listening to crackpots. You can't listen to crackpots who are unsuccessful at everything. You can't. If you have people on teams, fitness teams that are unsuccessful at everything, they haven't had no success, why would you want to listen to them? And you're in a new era whenever, see, this era is the era where everybody knows. You know, everybody knows. That's why somebody can put out a message that this is a plan from the very beginning, we'll work on that, and write the book you want to read. That's what we would like to read. The only thing is, in a certain change in history, you have to do, I'm not saying you have to do like I do, but I'm studying all the time. I study all the time. Everything that's happening, it don't make no difference what it look like. I may not look that smart, but I'm studying everything all the time. It don't make no difference. I'm studying. Why? Because in order to survive in a mine, there's mines out there. You can step on a mine anywhere, right? You can lean up against the wall and the wall blow up. You know what I mean? You have to be sensitive about your environment. And especially if Allah keep you alive long enough and you get some type of purpose that you want to, contribute or you want to give back. Aladdin gave you, and you want to give back. Well, that means you have to study. That's why I don't have anything against the brothers in the movement, but they're not evolutionary. How can our brothers be doing the same thing they was doing? The people hire them, and they giving the same dumb speech all over the world. Now, 40 years later, 30 years later, no evolution. Yeah, there's a few more people there, but that's not evolution. Evolution is when your thinking evolves, when your behavior evolves, when you're studying your environmental circumstances and you say, we did that because we had to. We did that, I didn't even know what I was doing, but now I know, right, certain things. So I'm going to evolve in a measured way. I want to miss this, I want to miss that, but then your belief increases to where you realize if something meant to hit you, it's going to hit you anyway. You can't do nothing about it, right? Your highest level of Islam is one of the highest levels is when you know, it's like kata. If it was meant to hit you, it's going to hit you. If it was meant to miss you, they can all be lined up, throwing at you, shooting at you, and you just walking right along and ain't nothing, poo, poo, poo. Because it wasn't meant to hit you. And it ain't going to hit you. It don't make no difference. Okay, that's where we are really now. And that's why I appeal is to a people that haven't never had a real chance. Their chance was always, you can help us in this slave thing that we got going on. You, a Negro, you can help us keep the rest of the slaves on the plantation. And we'll give you a middle class, da-da-da-da. And they teach that. That's why over at Howard, you go over there, I bet you they have more, they look like the Islamic programs when they have the who wants to join the FBI. We have language thing. Who's a native speakers of Dari, Pashto, Arabic, right? Every instant program we go to, they got the State Department. They do that. Of course they do. They go, when you walk out the door, they got a table. Up in the front. And just think about it now. It's not bad. The people are not bad people, right? They're not bad. They're not saying, man, I want to help keep the people down, right? Who was going to say that? It's just that by the time they get in the system, technically it's too late because, you can watch the Negroes over there for a while, and you can do this. It ain't going to hurt them. And then you adopt a principle. Them niggas, like I have people out of there told me, I ain't never used no drugs. And the people that, so you missed a lot of information, because anybody that's so square, they ain't never did nothing. I said, of course, when you're Muslim, you won't do it. But anybody came up through Jahiliyyah and ain't never tried nothing, I said, well, good for you. But you don't know how to deal with nobody that have, which is 92% of everybody I know ever since, not 92, 97, 98, right? Everybody done tried at least to smoke. Let me try to smoke weed. One of the people, they was talking about one of the people's son was using drugs. And one night I was up in Philadelphia, and I walked in the house, and the guy was sitting back like this. I said, oh, he ain't doing nothing smoking weed, because you could tell. He just smoked weed, right? You don't have to worry about nothing. He just smoking weed. How do you know? I said, because he wasn't using no speed, because he'd be eyes big, running around in circles, right, or cleaning up everything. Nigga want to clean up the whole house if he taking bennies or something like that, amphetamines, right? yeah, scrubbing, cleaning, and doing all this. I said, hey, homeboy was kicked back and watching cartoons or something, and he was just there. I said, right, he just smoked, he ain't doing nothing, he just smoke a little weed, right? Don't worry about him. He's fine. Okay, but see, after a while, you notice on the news and the media, all the Negro mayors and all the congressmen, they never mention that the drugs is common. Everybody know that white folks put drugs in our community. And they send you a message of what it was, 8 people just got shot in Chicago a few minutes ago or something. So what? When did they start getting shot? When did black people turn on each other like that? It's when you put drugs in the community. And it's not blacks, it's Italians. Remember all that, you watch any movie, all Italians is killing each other, the mafia, right? They keep burning each other because there's so much money involved. When it changes, then that changes too. So if they want to stop all the killing of black people, legalize drugs. Well, there's going to be so many people. I said, ain't going to be many people in the penitentiary and all that. I said, you just advertise and let people know that people drink alcohol, right? In Prohibition, they had to drink rot gut alcohol and making their belly blow up, you know, 'cause drinking that moonshine, that bad moonshine, not good moonshine. But anyway, no, legalize drugs, all of them. And then advertise, say, well, you know, you want to do this, you want to do that. I say, if all the singers, Ray Charles and all of them can use heroin all their life and still sing, right? Okay, so if you control it, if you only have to pay $2 a day for heroin, $1 in the morning and $1 in the afternoon, and you regulate it, you go to work, it's just like smoking cigarettes or something else. May not be bad as cigarettes. Yeah, you just legalize it. But if it's illegal, you know, they do black people so bad. Remember when Prohibition started, all the Italians and everybody got in it, all kind of. Black people was in it too, you know. Prohibition, when they prohibited alcohol.
I watched watching this not documentary, it's a historical series about a group of gang leaders that had basically risen up in the UK.
Right.
They were even getting in on prohibition more than alcohol.
Right.
So this is true. Everybody apparently got in.
Okay, but see, look what happened though. We got the mafia and all other kind of big, high-level organizations from Prohibition. Why then, that when the Negroes gets into drugs, why he never take over nothing? Why he don't last no time, right? Why is there no national syndicate of Negro drug dealers? There is none, because the police put it here on purpose, and he already got his plan. Soon as they get to step 3, off to jail you go, right? Soon as you get to you're not getting no higher than 4. So forget it. Why did the police hate me so bad? Because when I went down to South America, when I was here, we was hooking up, you know, national thinking, like, you know, this nigga gotta go. Then when I was down in South America, that was 50 years ago, about 50 years ago. There's no black people been down there there's no Scarface Negro, nobody. It's only Colombians and other people, right? Why? When we was down there, the idea was, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna knock over the blow, because see, at that time, the Colombians had all the cocaine, but they didn't have no distributors and they didn't have nothing. So here's the idea. And I told everybody, this is what we're going to cut them off. We're going to keep them down here, and we're going to take care of distribution. Maybe they can mix it up a little bit in transportation, but we're going to knock that, the whole country. That's where we was headed in 72, 73, and that's where we was headed. Okay. Boss man said, no, Mr. Negro, absolutely not. We're not having none of that. So, you notice there's no national syndicate. The mafia, all that came from prohibition. Remember, before then, there was prostitution and gambling. That was the vice in America. In 1914, the Harrison Act prevented drugs, but when this prohibition, look at the gangsterism in 1920 and look at it in 1932 when it ended. Man, you done got Al Capone, you got the whole syndicate in New York, you got a whole national syndicate from prohibition, only 12 years. We've been dealing dope for 50 years, big time, and ain't got no money. The only big Negroes they had was the first couple of years when they wanted us to sell dope to everybody so you could make big money. You can't make the same kind of money that you made in those days. And they're not going to let you keep it. What I mean is that they tell the people, your people, they using all those drugs and all of this is their fault. They're just not, thinking, and they're not this and they're not that. It's not that. It's that they done put all of that there, and it's worked. Break up the family, break up the society. They done broke it up. And you don't hear none of the mayors saying, hey, wait a minute. The problems we have in killing black people, y'all started that with all that dope. They don't tell the people, why don't y'all legalize drugs and see what happens? Black people won't have no reason to kill each other, right? Not only legalize it, but don't do it like marijuana. Can you imagine all the dope Negroes smoke and all the contracts for selling smoke now? 95% of it is white folks. This is ridiculous, right? They ought to make laws. We're going to give affirmative action. So that means 40% of all the heroin distribution and everything, we're going to have Negroes. We're going to let them sell it. Now, we're going to package it up and give it to them, but they'll be able to make big money. So Negroes, you get your little bag, morning shot of heroin, $1. And the law, if it's open, don't buy it. Right? If it's open, they're going to seal it up, $1 shot. So you're going to spend $2 a day. That's all it'll cost you, right, if it's done like that. And the Negroes going to get it for 25 cents each, so they're going to make 3 times their money, right? Okay. If it's open, don't buy it, right? They said, this is a $1 bag here. I ain't buying it, homeboy, because it's open, right? The white man sealed that up. And if it's open, you done something to it. I'm not going to buy it. So at least, there's all kind of ways to control it, to manipulate it. And then all the drugs. Imagine, them white boys is all souped up on crank and everything and paranoid. If you're not as scared of the police, you don't have no reason to be paranoid. I mean, the paranoia from the drug, you're going to get that anyway. But you ain't got no real reason to be paranoid. You ain't got to sit at your door like, I had some of that blow down in South America that it speeds you up a little bit. I liked it, because I was looking at them curtains. I'd take a hit and the curtains would move. I said, boy, there's some bad blow here. You know, in other words, I said, so it was a crack under the door, so I'd be sitting there blowing and I'd be looking under that crack. Because if the door's open or anything on the apartment where we live, you could see it. Look at the crack, it was a thick crack, about 1 inch on the door. So shoot, I'd sit there just watching that crack, you know, and then looking at the curtains, and the curtains would move. I mean, the faces on the curtain would move. I said, boy, look at him. That's some bad blow. But you know what I did blowing? I'd have a piece of paper just like this, and I'd take notes. And then after the next day, I'd read them. I said, so I just go down and scratch off the things that, if I've got 20 things wrote down, 2 or 3 of them would be, you know, because you're thinking big, and you read most of them and say, oh, that ain't going to work, that ain't going to work. But hey, look at here. So if you don't have no reason to be afraid, and remember, nobody's looking for you. You ain't sold nobody no garbage, right? So there ain't nobody looking for you to kill you, right? So your paranoia is just from you can't use no crank or speed without getting a little paranoid. You know what I mean? But it's all managed. And it don't cost nothing. It don't cost nothing. That will save the society. 80% of the crime is drug related. 80% of the people will be out of prison. 80% of the courts will be closed. Right? Just by drugs, right? Because you don't have and the killing, it'll decrease. Like the killing, by the time World War II came along, it wasn't hardly no killings in the white neighborhood. And they wasn't killing each other. Because there was no prohibition, like in the old days. It was this is my corner, this is my territory, right? Was none of that. Okay, anyway, you don't hear none of the mayors, I'll close in a minute, you don't hear none of the mayors saying anything like that. Why? Because they're not in tune with the reality of the time in which we live. So anyway, so to talk today, we wanted to discuss evolution. One of the things that came up normally was there was insufficient evolution in our society and in our movement. And the government uses that because, like we say, the people, when I went to jail down here in D.C., I looked at all those marshals. I could tell they was the new marshals. They was all college grads. Probably they was frat brothers and sisters. You could tell. And the way they looked at me, I could see that they understood some things. But they're marshals. And when the police was talking crazy to me, a little old white man this big, and I talked crazy to him back. And everybody said, Imam Musa, no. They kind of brutalized the brother down there, but that's what they do. It ain't no big deal. And the Negro marshals didn't say nothing. And the old ones definitely didn't say nothing. And the young ones, they didn't particularly like it, but they're part of the system. That's the way it is if you make a mistake and join the army. Pretty soon you're in there, you say, I made a mistake. Soon as you go out on the battlefield, right? You say, I made a mistake, but you're a part of the institution now. Okay. I'm going to move toward a close, but we're in a new environment where there's a general knowledge. So people that are part of the system are being mistreated by the system too, and they understand it. And they definitely see that the people are unnecessarily mistreated. It's not necessary to treat people like they treat them. Also, we see that there are so many opportunities to have a better society, but nobody's trying to have, nobody's, you know what I mean? When I say nobody, the system is unnecessarily producing all of this stupidity. No, they're producing all of this. No, they could look. It wouldn't be no problem to share. You could still have a little upper class, but you could share. It's enough in this world. Technology is such a level. You could have a smooth operating, like the Chinese say, moderately prosperous world right now without going crazy. Like the people could live the way they're living right now in reasonable homes and all that, but at 1/3 the price. Where if somebody didn't want to work in the family, they didn't have to. Now everybody got to work. How is it they could have the father 50, 60 years ago could work and they buy a house and they drive a brand new Chevrolet and all the kids go off to college? Yeah, that's right. You could, you know, a high school education used to mean something. Now the poor kids come out of college on 50,000, 30,000, 100 and something thousand, and more. Don't talk about medical school. I don't even know how much they owe. You can imagine you get out of college and you're in debt. You miss 3 or 4 years. The doggone wait a minute. They said, wait a minute. I borrowed 50,000. I paid off 30,000, and now I still owe you 100,000. What happened? Well, you know, there's interest increase. You missed 3, 4 years. You know, this is insanity. That's not necessary. And the people that's running the government don't think like that. That's why the Chinese, 95% of the Chinamen like the government, and 8 or 9% of the people here like, because no matter what you say about them, they done went back now. They say, man, we done got 800 million people out of poverty, rolling big. Now we going back after the 500 million? Yeah, 500 million poor. That's really kind of, you know, out on the farm and all that. They going back and getting them now. On their own. Ain't nobody making them do it. They doing it on their own. The U.S. is not doing that. That's why I guess it's the qadr of Allah that when somebody start heading down, everything has its time, its season. But here in the United States, no, we could do good here. We could do good here. That's. I look at it like that's what we was put here for. Because it takes big thinking, strong people. Right. People that follow orders all the time, they're not going to do this. It's people that will face the challenge and do it anyway. That's part of I believe that's part of our mission, you know, to go on and do it. So, and I'll close with this. Let's call it visioneering. You know, if you think that stuff don't work, in 1968, 67 going into 68, it was winter time. Going into this, man, I was listening to the Temptations, and I might even been smoking a little weed, but I was tripping. You know, I saw limousines driving up and down the streets, all different colors, and within 6 months, after going through that trip, you know, I wish it would rain. Everybody thought I was like, wish it would rain, because I'd be sitting at the window crying because the rain dry. I said, man, ain't nobody caring about all of that stuff. Y'all ain't listening to what's happening. I said the Temptations is an organization, man, and they move with precision. That's what I was trying to, I said, you see how they move? Suppose you got an organization that can move with the precision that them boys can put that stuff out. That's what I was thinking about. Because people that was big supposed to like jazz, I said, I don't like all that old jazz. I said, I don't like that stuff, man. You know, anyway, some of it a little bit. But anyway, no, by mid-68, at the end of 68, coming into 69, the thing just blew up, exploded, and we was on a roll. It was on a roll. Just that visioneering. One of the visions was everybody's talking about the Ward brothers. They got 4 brothers. They doing all this. They was big. And I opened the refrigerator one day and all men are your brothers. Shoot, I just jumped out the house and put a whole crew together right away. And you know, who needs 4 blood brothers to do something, right? Just that quick. This stuff, visioneering, and I didn't know what it was called then. I just found out what it, you picture that stuff, and I was shocked how fast and how big it could get, you know. Now, the same thing. You visualize, you picture the stuff we're talking about, it might sound way out there for other people, but it's right here. Why? Everything we ever talked about, think about it here, it's just about to come out. And we're not hurting, or we don't have sores and pus all on our skin, right? And we don't challenging the white man like we do. Shoot, and ain't got no, hey man, it's a joke, right? It's a joke. In other words, and we turn everything the system do into a pleasure. So ain't nothing he can do. You know, I mean, nobody wants to leave here before their time, but when you leave, it'll be your time. The thing is, hey man, we're in an opportunity that all the stuff, all the fun they done made out of Negroes and all this and that, we have a chance to zip right on up and make a human contribution to humanity's development. That's what we got to, that's what we're going to try to do anyway. That's what we're trying to do now. And nobody wants that. All of our friends, look what they did. And I'll close with this. Look in South Africa and all of that. And the people around here. What happened to them? If they had tafsir of Quran and stuff, we put it in here. We gave speeches for them. Why they disappear? Why they don't want to? Is because when Dr. Siddiqui said what he said, they didn't just run away that first day, but they started drifting right away and start putting impediments in the way. You know what I mean? That pretty soon you're there and they're gone. And as far as, I'll close with this on Iran and them places. Iran is a miracle for the 40-something year, right? And the people, the bootlickers, I ain't gonna say they better watch out, but they can watch out because this system is trying to destroy all of Iran and all Iranians. It's just like trying to get rid of all the Indians. If they come for you in the morning, they come for us tonight, right? And so if they come for the easygoing, sweetie pie Iranians at nighttime, I mean, they're going to come for the revolutionaries at first. They're trying to get rid of them now, and it ain't working. It ain't going nowhere. They haven't won nothing. They haven't won anything. Look at them in decades. They didn't win Korea. Korea's still there. They definitely didn't win Vietnam. They crying today over Vietnam. And what they did in the Gulf, you see what the Afghani brothers was saying down there. Hey man, we do this stuff all our life. Remember? If this happened, because I was talking about Afghanistan in the khutbah, and I specifically mentioned Khyber Pass, because sometimes you look around and they all remember, and one of the guys said, when was you in Peshawar? I'm from Peshawar. That's Pakistan, right across the border where the camps was. I said, I was there in 89. He said, man, that was before I was born. I said, well, it's okay. But anyway, the point is that sure they brought us here in slavery. Sure they never gave us our due. All the people, whether it's World War I, whether it's the Civil War, whether it was World War II, the people flying all in planes. No, they didn't give us our due. But we're not dealing with this thing based on their behavior. We're doing it based on our evolution. You see what I mean? This is our evolution. And we don't let their status quo affect our evolution. And then I will close, but the thing is that this is an emergency type situation. It's not just a standard, you can feel that this is different. You know what I mean? We've been talking about 2020 and all of that. Yeah. But 2020 is here, and it's big time. It's big time, and everybody is scared. Oh, they're gonna put somebody in the Supreme Court. Great, get them on in there. Let them act crazy, right? Let them prove that they're a liar. The way the one guy said, why, I guarantee you that if they have a Supreme Court opening come up during my time in the last part of the year, I won't, what is Schumer, not Schumer, one of them. Yeah, the other old Republican senator. I guarantee you that I won't go and do that, that he was on TV yesterday and they just got him lying. Let him lie. The more, right, the better. That system is not working. See, we plan for the big show that we believe, as we've always believed in recent times. We have to fix a whole new thing. And it's going to slip up on them. That means we can create the type of world we want to live in. And because the other one is not working. That's all we got to do, is just hang around long enough and let this thing continue to unravel, right? And then we offer the solutions. And we'll be presenting it just like we presented the old As-Sabiquns. We're going to present this stuff, modern stuff. This is what works. All we got to do is get it to the people with a reasonable attitude and a reasonable dissertation. The people is ready. And the government can't change. You don't have to even worry about that. They will not change, and they can't change, because that's their habit now. They're in a habit, and their habit is going to take them down. Are there any questions or comments about anything that was said today?
Yeah, well, there was a brother on Facebook that did ask, he asked, how much did Sufism contribute to the destruction of the Dar Islam movement?
Okay, that's a good question. So that person has been around. Down near the end, Yahya Abdul Karim was changing into the Dar to a Sufi type. He was talking a lot of Sufism. Okay. So Jelani, when he came over, he came in with Sufism. above where he would be at. You know what I mean? Way above. Now remember, they got the dar already. They got it saturated with people. They're waiting for something. So when Jelani come, they waiting on him. So true Sufism didn't have anything to do with the destruction of the dar. Phony Sufism, because all of our big movements in Africa have always been Tijaniya, Qadiriya, all of them. Muhammad Abdullah Hassan over there in Somalia whooped the British and the Italians all at the same time. Tasawwuf, Sufism, all of everybody is from all of everywhere is Sufis. Africa is a Sufi continent. Everybody is basically, everybody is basically Sufi or Sufi types, especially in Black Africa. But all along that Western, Central Africa, everybody is part of one of them, one of the structures there. But anyway, there's some phony stuff. The phony stuff was, I'm going to teach you how to make wudu and blood and all that. And so Jelani came, and I don't know whether the person asked the question, but that's part of one of them slick points to try to divert, to justify the dar being destroyed by Sufism, but it was the government destroyed the dar. Because some of the people, you've probably seen them around, red henna in their beard, all that stuff. They were in the dar at that time, and their job was to convince us that it was black magic and all that stuff that brought the dar down. That wasn't black magic, it was black niggas. It's black niggas that was polices. Because see, they imagine Imam Yahya Abdul Karim. Imagine a movement that's doing paratroop training. ROD, the military armored dog, jumping out of parachute, doing parachute training, and then they say, we're going to jump out over the Kaaba. In 1980, they take over the Kaaba over there. The brothers don't realize how Saudi Arabia and how everybody's, right? And they just diving out, probably skydiving and everything. They don't know how the system view them. And they're disciplined, and they're da-da-da-da-da. And the white man just knocked them. So if it was 10 brothers, it was probably 7 or 8 was the police. Easy. Easy, 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 easy. That's why the dar was destroyed. The Islamic Party was the same. I don't know the numbers in the Islamic Party, but you would be surprised who a lot of the, anyway, long story. No, our movements were always infiltrated, sabotaged. And that's why we saying to everybody, hey man, boss man is through. Join a human improvement, the Negro Human Improvement Muslim Association. Yeah, that's all. That system is dying. It used to be you get education, you get in, and you become Dr. So-and-so. You won't have too much trouble. That's not true anymore. And when you start going down, you get meaner and meaner. The United States is not getting nicer, it's getting meaner and meaner to everybody. It's slaughtering people. It's hijacking boats and Syria's oil. Syria need all the oil it's got to fix this place up. And the U.S. is stealing all the oil. Huh? See, but there's a time when that stuff works. But now the time for that is over. It's not going to work. Yeah, it works, and it harms a lot of people. That's what people said on TV, that the U.S. can kill a lot of people, but it can't develop nothing. Can't develop anything. And, yeah, so are there any more questions that the brothers might have?
Well, there's a comment. There was a brother that said, that's why China's in Africa. Most of the poor people of China are migrating to Africa.
Look, China. No, look, let's just be realistic. The Chinese will have to answer to history, too. Years ago, the Chinese in Africa was great. I watched them build the Tanzam Railway from Dar es Salaam to Lusaka, Zambia. Along that railroad, there was no mixed Chinese and Negro babies. The highway built by the Americans, it was mixed everybody all along that highway. Corruption. Okay, now, strategically, like some of the people say, China, in the parks in China, it had the same sign they had everywhere else. No Chinese and dogs allowed in China. Okay. So China's first thing was to build, when Chairman Mao handed it over to these people they got now, it was, he had gotten older and he made more mistakes in recent years than he had made before, But he had a cultural revolution. The Chinese some of them had got big, and they were stealing all the money during his time. Okay, they have corruption now. This guy is very smart. China is exploded. If you went to China now, you wouldn't even believe it. You go to New York, those old raggedy buildings now. You go to China, everything is sparkling, brand new. Sparkling, beautiful. Okay, China and Africa. Remember about immigration and businessmen. China and India, they're big countries. They got people everywhere. In Malaysia and Indonesia, those are the biggest Muslim countries, 200 million in Indonesia. And okay, the Chinese businessmen, they have affirmative action in Malaysia for Malays. For Malays, not for Chinese. Because they got to give their people a chance to get ahead in their own country. Everybody knows this. In Indonesia, the Chinese are trying to not drive big cars and look too rich. They say that this is what we don't want to make them mad. This is reality. Why? Because the Chinese went there and they went into business. If you go into business, you get all the money. We just said that. It don't make if you're an immigrant, right? Whether you're Somali, we all know all the Somalis, or whether it's here. Sudanese are black, but they got a place up there. And they got another 7-Eleven. Look like they building another one down this way. You look around, you'll see Sudanese. They drive them cabs till the wheel fall off, and they clunk it up into a place. There's a new place, and they work in there, all of them, and they're going to get rich. That's just going to get rich. Negroes don't do that no more. Negroes don't do that no more. Find a greasy spoon. in D.C. You can find a wang wang chicken and all of that. Ganglang, but find something they eat in South Carolina or something. Maybe one or two, right? Couple of fish places, not like they used to. You used to get fish, go to every place, a fish place down there, frying fish, right? Fried chicken, where they at now. Everybody else is in business, right? And we're not. The Chinese in Africa. Chinese in Africa, they've basically knocked Africa. Africa is, might as well, it could be technically a Chinese colony right now, today. They didn't build infrastructure, the Belt and Road, and it's not just Africa where the blacks are. This is Egypt, the Suez Canal right near there. They building that Belt and Road everywhere. The Chinese will have to answer the history. What we said before is if they mix Chairman Mao and Deng Xiaoping, Chairman Mao was for social human development. Deng Xiaoping said, getting rich is glorious. Okay, now they're on that road, but they have to control themselves. They have to control themselves. If they don't, they'll be taken out with history. They'll be taken out with history if they continue with loaning African countries trillions of dollars, which they can't pay back. They'll be just like the doggone World Bank and all of them. So they have to control themselves. Okay, I hope for the best for China. But for right now, the enemy of our enemy is our friend. Anyway, China has already knocked the United States of America. He just knocked, finished. And we've been saying this for years. Years ago, they got a Chinese Caribbean initiative. This was 10 years ago, 15. I said, boy, they're getting around. But now, hey man, there is literally no way that the United States, look at the world's economy, which is the only economy that's doing any good right now. How many people dying in China? 4 or 5, and it's got 1.5 billion people, right? And it's 200,000 dead here. If it's 50 dead in China, can you imagine that they announced on the news 2 people died in China that somebody came in and they brought, that's what, you ever listen? What they saying? They ain't saying no 200,000. 3 people came from somewhere and we think they spread and then 6 people died. It's insanity. They're really saying that. Okay, now look. Remember, everybody get a chance to get big. China is big. They steamroll. It ain't nothing. The Thucydides trap. The United States can't do nothing with China. They already juiced up. They can't have no war. They can't do, and they can't beat them in trade. They can't do nothing. They're the U.S. economy, the Chinese is on a roll. The Chinese that knocked Africa. That's all the resources in the world. They got to hook up with everybody. Saudi Arabian oil, Iranian oil on the other side, right? Anybody you name, Africa, they built the central headquarters for AFRICOM, not AFRICOM, that's the white folks. What's that? Yeah, but the one come after the African Union. UDAD, UMDAD, what is it? I'll think of what they got right now. They didn't build the central headquarters for all of that. They built that 10 years ago. Okay, They on the roll. You can't do nothing. Look, if you're gonna be mad at China, you're gonna stay mad, because they on the upswing. They're like the U.S. used to be, but they come back so fast. It ain't nothing in history ever steamrolled this quick. In 40 years, hey man, and the white man is mad. He is mad because the Chinese tricked him. No, Deng Xiaoping said, oh, just hold on, we old China, with this Chinaman, we just don't want nothing much. We just want to, oh, you want to send your stuff here? You send all that, we wacky, right?
So should they keep that attitude? Because I was just listening to something, and that being a strategy, but now it seems like they're saying that now they kind of.
Oh, that is finished. That was Deng Xiaoping back in the 80s and 90s. Oh, we just, he wear a Texas hat down there. We just, the Chinese laundryman act, that's what I always, oh, we don't want nothing much. Oh, you gonna send all your stuff over here? You send it. We working for nothing. They did it. But they was banking on history. Everybody, when they got prosperous, they accepted democracy. Chinese didn't. They said, what is it? But Chinese Marxist-Leninism, Chairman Mao Zedong thought, Deng Xiaoping thought with Chinese characteristics. They own stuff. And guess what? They outfunction the United States 10 times. The United States is old and sluggish. They're efficient and effective. You can see it. That's the way it is. When it's time for you to transfer Murabani, whatever his name, everybody said that. They was watching. They said, man, boss man is losing it. And then he just looked up, the last 2 years is when it's really hitting him. The last 2 or 3 years, because 2 years ago, China was saying, well, you think we should, what happened was when they came out with their international plan 2 years ago. Now, Chinese characteristics has been big for years, but the people over here didn't know about it. So he said, well, we're going to plan for 2035 to have this. And by 2045 and 49, we're going to have a total, and it looked like they probably get, everywhere they going, they getting there ahead of time. Okay, so if anybody, you have to leave China to history. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing a group of Negroes or people, we have studied China for decades. You could tell through all our lectures. So we hope good for China. But China has to control itself. You know, when you start getting big, hey man, it ain't no joke. I mean, it'll run you crazy. They got to tell the Chinese, do not be careful how you treat the Africans, because the Africans are not going to work like you work. They don't believe in it. You know what I mean? In Africa, you throw seeds out the window, everything grows. In China, remember, you can see them. They're like ants. They just get on the thing and they all, right? That's the way they do. Okay, but China can't put that on other people. There's different culture. They can't go everywhere like they got these Chinese schools everywhere now teaching Chinese and da-da-da-da-da. And they remember, if they got ahead with Chinese characteristics, then everybody else have to feel good about Ugandan characteristics, about Malaysian characteristics, right? About Iranian characteristics. They can't get like the white man. and going to make everybody speak English and all that. Now, I'm telling you, in all around the world right now, they got people doing the Chinese boat races with the dragon boats and everything. They got to watch that. They have to control themselves. And if we can visit the embassies, we're going to tell them about history. You know, if they listen to us, we listen to them. If they listen, well, they got people paying attention to everybody. So that's our message to China. If they don't, they slipping. I believe they do. They got people paying attention. Because every press has been here years ago. Chinese, Japanese, everybody. Well, the Chinese didn't come on purpose, but they slipped around. So everybody has paid attention. So we would say to China, control yourself. I know you're not Muslims, but stick with this Marxist Leninism with Chinese characteristics. And Confucius, they're teaching Confucianism again. Confucius, I don't know what Confucius said this, Confucius said that, but you have to teach your people moderation under fire. I mean, when you getting big rich, it's hard to control yourself. I mean, your blood boil, you know, like when you can get so much money, you can feel your blood pumping almost. You just be juiced up, man. When you're getting big money, you just be, you know, and when you're getting big, pretty soon the people start looking small. The bigger you get, the smaller they look. And then pretty soon your mind change. They're poor because they didn't do like us. Right? They got to watch that. If they don't watch it, don't worry. Same thing took them out. You know, the world been here a long time. Same thing taking Sam out now, they'll be gone. They'll be gone. And now things are quicker. So China has the ability to assist the whole world. It's really unique. And I hope what we said in our talks, I hope they blend Deng Xiaoping and Chairman Mao. You know, if they blend, because Chairman Mao was a socialist, that helped send troops to Korea to fight Americans, to do all that stuff without being too slick. You can see signs of slickness everywhere. You know? That's why I said a month ago, that China should forgive half the debt they didn't already put out. Do you remember that? Half of the debt. I said they should forgive 50% of the debt that they didn't put out. Like Kenya owes this much for that Belt and Road. That's great. It used to take 12 hours to get from Mombasa to Nairobi. Now it takes 4 hours with that super train. 4 hours. And that's the goods. That means the goods on the train don't rot, you know, from the coast to get up there. The fruit, you know how fruit, you know, you take it out, leave it on the train too long, it'll rot on the way. Now, zoop, it's there. Okay. But they done loaned everybody money. And they done moved from, they used to have a 2% loan. When you borrowed, if you borrowed $1 million, you just have to pay back that $1 million and 2%. And that was carrying charges. That was just the paperwork and all that. So you didn't have, technically it wasn't a big deal. But now, now let's look at the other side, China's side. China done loan out so much money, boy, to look at here. They up to here, and so they have to slow down a little bit and now smooth it out. But they ought to thank Allah, which they Chinamen, I mean, not believers, you know. Well, some of them are. But I don't know how the thing of gratefulness is with Confucianism. I'm going to try to look it up. But gratefulness, what they have now, they wanted to be self-respected and they wanted their self-esteem to come back. Look at here. This one came rolling back like a choo-choo train, not even a choo-choo train, a bullet train. Bam! Can you imagine 70 years ago? Not 70 years, 40 years ago, they was flat broke. And now they're the biggest thing going. That's never happened in history. That just happened in history. Haven't happened. Okay. So with China, we're praying for China that they stay on that the human road and not let. I don't know how many Africans own businesses in Africa now, but when I spent a lot of time in Africa, the Indians that helped came build a railroad, like in Tanzania. Do you remember in history when Idi Amin put all the Indians out? Okay, of Uganda. When I was in Tanzania, 95% of all businesses was owned by Indians. Why? Because the Indians came to work on the railroad. They stayed and they all opened stores. All the Indians, none of them were workers. They all owned all the business. When an African went to buy something, he bought it from an Indian. That's why Idi Amin put them all out. 1972, put them all out. And guess what? Everybody else wanted to do that. They just wasn't tough as Idi Amin. But everybody said, boy, Idi Amin. Because, okay, anyway, that's the way it is. South Africa, you know, all our friends, South Africa, the Muslims, they all in business. They don't live in none of them shanty, you see them shanty towns? They don't live like that. I wish I could have some of the pictures to show you the houses our brothers live in. Our brothers are wealthy. What do you call it? The Indian in Gauteng up there, and they live real good. And in Cape Town is the biggest settlement, maybe 700,000 Muslims there, but they're more middle classish because they're a mixture of Malays, Africans, and a few Indians. But Cape Town is, they call them Cape Coloreds. The people, if you like yellow girls, you love Cape Town. They got this just running all over the place. They're everywhere. You know, you just go crazy there. You know, I said, boy, look at these tenders here. Of course, I was a Muslim, and I couldn't think like that, but that's what they looked like to me if you didn't know any better. You know, I mean, it was just tenders everywhere. Everybody's a tender, you know, they're almost, but they're all business people. That's why when they brought us around and put us in those factories and we wasn't business people anymore, it finished us off because we don't have nothing. If the economy goes down, we go down. But if economy go down, the people still got to go buy it to the store. They got to go buy, you know, they got to have stuff. And that's the way the Chinese are. So anyway, the last thing is I saw a Chinese movie 2 weeks ago. I was just laughing myself to death. It's the one Wolf. Wolf 2. The Chinese, of course, are the heroes. And the Chinese are putting out the same propaganda that the Americans said. When freedom and justice, it's all typed across it, is needed, the Chinese will be there. And then the white man that the Chinaman is finally going to beat up, the white man tell them, you people are inferior to us, something or other. And then the Chinese throw him back and whoop him. And they said, no, you people are finished. I mean, that's what they just think the old propaganda movies in America about America. The Chinese are doing that. And they're doing it today, right now, this minute. If you think I'm jiving, can you see a movie on there called Wolf? Wolf 2. Yeah, Wolf 2. Just see what it is. See if they got a trailer. Wolf Warrior 2, yeah. Turn the what's the name on the trailer. See what it do. The Chinamen are saving Africa.
It really is like that.
Hmm?
It's just Chinese, you know.
Right.
Like it really is like you said. As opposed to some white guy beating up everybody, and the Chinese guy beating up everybody.
He's gonna be fighting the white man in a minute. It just came out. The same thing, a little black boy. There's a little black boy, about 13. He's the sidekick of the Chinaman that whoops everybody. The Chinese are all throughout Africa, and you can imagine who's their enemy. And then, no, look, the Chinamans, when it's over, they got a lot of Africans lined up, and then the Chinaman stick his arm in a Chinese flag and hold it up. We're Chinese. Hey, man, look, they're on a roll. Ain't nothing you can do about it. You're just wasting your time. We can pray for them. We pray for them that propaganda that they putting out, kind of, the older people, the Chairman Mao's crew, they got a little bit of that in them. But a lot of the people in China are young, man. They don't remember Chairman Mao. That was 40 years ago. They don't even remember Deng Xiaoping hardly, you know. They don't remember that. But they are being taught ethics and morals, but with Chinese characteristics. That means now they're talking more. 2-3 years ago, they were still in the little mousy, but in the last 2 years, the U.S. done forced them out. They challenged them so much, they said, no, man, we ain't putting up with that no more, you know. And we Chinamans, and this is what we're doing, and we're not going to become Americans. We're not going to become Democrats and Republicans, inefficient, stupid people like you. That's what they're almost saying that now on Chinese TV. They're almost saying, no, man, you guys are finished. I'm sorry. Ain't nothing, you know, highway, Huawei, we're going to get rid of you. Got tick-tock, tick-tock. We're mad at all of that, right? They said, man, you're just jealous. They're saying it in words. You're just jealous, man. And the whole world knows it's true. No, the boss man here is mad. The Chinese slipped up, they pulled that old Chinese laundry man on him, and it looked up. Hey, man, this boy is dazzled, and ain't nothing he can do about it. Nothing. Yes. Huh? Yeah, they have it on all the Chinese stations and everything.
No, I ain't talking Chinese station.
What do you mean?
China will put We with y'all. Black Lives Matter.
Oh, yeah,
You know, they got an organization there that they gave Black Lives Matter so much money that it's called, I can't pronounce it how I say it, so I don't want to mislead nobody. But if you look it up, you will see it. It's on there. They in with Black Lives Matter. I'm like, it's like you got Black Lives Matter, and then it's another lady.
Okay, but see, we have to be careful with Black Lives Matter too. We have to, Black Lives Matter may mean everybody else really matter and we're just using the black tongue. You know, those movements, they so badly infiltrated that, but anyway, the Chinese, basically China, we've studied it for at least 50 years now, step by step. In fact, I have at my house right now, Peking Review. Y'all probably never heard of Peking Review. Last one printed was 1976 when Chairman Mao died, and then the Gang of Four. You ever heard of the Gang of Four? Gang of Four, that was Mao's wife and all. Anyway, we are praying that China keeps its ethics alive and it don't let success run it crazy. Now the guy that running China now, he seems like he's pretty sharp. In fact, I know I can hear him. He's sharp. They're doing all right in most things. They're evolving. A lot of stuff they're saying about China, like the Uyghurs and all that, they may take a one drop of truth and make a whole gallon, like Kool-Aid. You know, that's what they're doing. But some of that stuff is not true. And what would the United States, what would it mean to them anyway, talking about how Chinaman is against Muslims? They the one got the Muslim ban over here. And plus the Chinamans in China, they had 4 million Uyghurs, now they got 11. I don't know how they do that, if they, you know what I mean, stuff like that, which you can measure that, you know what I mean? Anyway, not to go around in circles, we're gonna pray, we continue to pray for China, that they don't fall into the historical pattern of arrogance and what have you. Because right now, if you look around the world, China got everything locked up. They said they got 17 choke points in the world, like the Suez Canal, this and that. That Belt and Road, China got all of them. He got Boss Man. Look, Boss Man is just blocked in. And they won't be able to do one project the Chinese was going to build through Nicaragua or a canal to go against the Chinese, the Panama Canal. But that canal through Nicaragua would lock in with a big lake, the biggest lake, freshwater lake in Central America, and they don't want to destroy the ecology of taking those oil tankers through that fresh water, and one oil spill would destroy that billions of gallons of fresh water for Nicaragua and all the fish. So anyway, we're praying for China. We hope that they don't get out of line. But there's one thing, if they do get out of line, the world has it in its power, the power to pull back. You can get Africa, Asia, South America all say at the same time, hey, we pulling back. We ain't paying nothing. We ain't gonna, or they could ho-hum, foot shuffle and drag, you know what I mean? And they could do that. So they have to be careful. But anyway, we praying for them. We hope they do right. Any more questions? Yeah. Yeah, you can see the Wolf Warrior if you want to. Yeah, you can turn that up.